The number one fear that Etsy sellers have when running Etsy ads is losing money. So this video is going to teach you how to not lose money when running Etsy ads. Hey, I'm Jared Robinson, host of Grow My Etsy Shop podcast, and I'm here to talk Etsy ads with you today. The first thing that you have to realize when you're running Etsy ads is that its purpose is to drive traffic to your shop, period. Which means it doesn't bring sales. It isn't this magic switch that you hit and suddenly cha-ching, 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 all this stuff's coming in. It is just to increase the amount of traffic that is coming to your store. I want you to think about this. If I gave you the opportunity to present, let's just say your product on this video right now, which product would you choose from your Etsy shop? One that's never sold before or one of your best-selling items? So the same mentality needs to go with your ads. You don't want to spend money on something that doesn't have any proof of concept, which means that no one's ever bought it or it gets low sales. You want to invest your money in the things that are selling because that has proof of concept. When someone buys something from you, not just tells you that your product is great, but buys something from you, they are telling you that the price is right, that the pictures are great, and that you do a great job offering what it is that you're selling. It's clear, it makes sense that they're willing to hand you money in exchange for that product. This is the number one stamp that something is going to work in your life when someone pays you for it. So you want to take the items that are being sold and you want to get more traffic to those. That is the purpose of Etsy ads. And this is where a lot of people make mistakes, is they try to promote either all their listings or a big group of listings, or take the ones that aren't doing as well because they already have some that are selling. So might as well get these selling as well. That's not the way you want to run ads. So here's a good rule of thumb. If you want your ads to be profitable, promote what is already selling. If you want to scale your items and grow different parts of your store, then yes, that's when we're going to test a little bit more with Etsy ads. But for most people who are running Etsy ads, they're looking for that profitability to be as soon as possible. This is why we promote our best sellers. So a big question that people ask is, how many items should they promote? Etsy needs your money to collect the data that it needs to know what is actually working. So if you give them 20 products and $5, they're going to be spending pennies a day on each of those products. This means it's going to take a really long time for Etsy to learn what is actually working in your store. Once we understand that Etsy needs data to be successful, and we need data to know what's working within our store, then we can understand that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to split our budget between lots of different listings, because that's just going to take a really long time for us to learn what we need. We instead are going to focus in on some of our best sellers and let the budget go into those best sellers so that we can get the data that we need and Etsy can get the data that they need. So once we focus in on 1 to 2 products at a time, we place a budget between those products. Now that budget needs to range based on how much your product is. If you sell a $50 product, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to be putting $1 a day. Because for us, we want to at least spend the amount it costs or amount we're selling it before we make any decisions. So if it's a $50 product, we want to spend a minimum of $50 before we make any decisions. A good rule of thumb is to do 1.5 above your asking price all the way up to 4.5. 4.5 would be for those who have really high margins and low costs, like digital prints. If you're selling something for like $2, yeah, you need to spend $8, $10 before you can make a decision whether something's working. But if you're selling something for $100, we only need to spend about $150, $170 before we can decide whether or not that ad is working for us. The reason that we want to overspend the value when we first launch an ad, now keep in mind, this is one of our best-selling ads, is because it takes time for Etsy to figure out which keywords work best. And so they're going to be dropping you into different keywords, into different searches, and to see what your click rate is through those searches. Now, keep in mind, your keywords are coming from the tags that you place within your store. So if your tags are really generic and don't really describe your product well, your ads are going to be all over the place and probably not found in the right searches. But the only way you'll truly know this is when Etsy collects enough data, because then they leave something open for you called search terms, where you can click and see which keywords are actually bringing in traffic to you. You then have the ability to turn off certain keywords. So anything that's very vague, that doesn't necessarily describe your product perfectly, we're going to turn those off the more money that we're spending. So here's kind of my rule of thumb when it comes to ads. Once I spend what I feel based on how much my product is worth, amount of money, whether that's 1.5 to 3 times the amount, I then look at the ad itself. I go into my Etsy marketing stats and I look to see what the ROAS is. How much money is spent and how much money did I get back? If I've spent $50 on a $50 product and I have had 0 sales, I'm going to go into the search terms and make edits. And I'm going to make sure that every keyword that's coming in is as strong as possible and turn off any keywords that don't directly describe my product. I'm then going to let it run for maybe another $20 to see if that solved the problem. If I'm at 70 on a $50 product, that's usually the time I'm going to turn that ad off. Now, let's say you get to that $65 mark and you do get a sale from that ad after you've made those edits. Well, at that scenario, you're going to leave that thing off. You're going to continue to create negative keywords so that you're honed in as best as you can. And you're going to wait another cycle. Because you received that $50 from the customer, you can put that money back into advertising and seeing if you can get that to stick. If you get 2 sales your next round, perfect. You put it back in advertising. 3 sales your next round. Now you're building something. If the ad, it just does amazing and you're just seeing great ROAS that's coming with that, well, then at that scenario, you're just going to let it be and only turn off negative keywords at a minimum because Etsy's figured it out. So that scenario, we don't want to get too much our hands involved in this. And so we just go in. If there's something that's completely off, we'll turn that off. But outside of that, if something is working, let it ride. Once we find that these ads are working and sticking for us, that's when we start to introduce new things into the Etsy advertising algorithm. Now, what we don't want to do is add new things without increasing the budget. If you don't increase the budget, then you're diluting the budget that you currently have and are going back to that original problem where Etsy's not getting enough data and you had something that's working and now you're not giving it enough money for it to continue to work. So if you're spending $20 a day profitably and you're introducing another product in, increase that budget to $40 and work with that additional $20. This is the way you want to scale and build your Etsy ad. Here's a question I got from my Facebook group. I'll put the link below if you want to join that group. Somebody asked if turning off our ads affects our organic search as well. The answer is yes and no. Here's why. When you create an ad, Etsy actually creates a second version of that ad. You'll notice this if you're on the front page and you're running an ad on the front page as well, you may see the same product on the page. That's because Etsy makes a duplicate version when they run your ad. This is to help Etsy keep straight the new data that's now coming in. If all of a sudden a listing starts to get a lot more views and a lot more clicks, they need to know that it's through paid advertisement that that's taking place. However, if Etsy is seeing that that product is selling, then that does help your organic search because Etsy's now getting authority of a product they know that people are interested in. You'll notice this a lot of the times when you start an ad. If you look at the listing stats, you'll notice that a particular listing may be getting a lot more paid traffic than it is organic traffic. But after about 30 days, you'll see that the organic traffic of that same ad is starting to grow. This is really helpful for your store. And another reason it could be great is that if someone sees you at the top through an ad and then they scroll down and see you again, that helps kind of just solidify and help them make that extra click, seeing your ad or seeing your product twice. Another member asked, what do I think about promoting a new product? Now, if you are a successful store who's running, who has consistent sales and is profitable month after month, I have no problems with this because it's a quick way to know if something is going to be great for you. Boost some traffic into it. If you start to see sales, then you know it's working for you. But by then you should have the formula down. You should know why people are buying your stuff. You should know your target audience. You should know your niche. And by understanding all that, you have an advantage that you can promote your stuff pretty quick and start to get sales pretty quick from. However, if you're a newer store or a store that's struggling, you definitely want to stick within your bestseller. One last question I have from the group is if you should run ads if you're already on the front page. The answer to that is yes. Here's why. You're probably on the front page for a keyword or two. However, the ads allow you to be on the front page of multiple keywords, which is going to help you grow. Another reason that I mentioned earlier is that if you're being seen twice from an ad, that is really powerful from the buying standpoint. To be able to see something, if they scroll past, they look at a couple more things, they go, oh, you know, maybe, and they haven't clicked yet, and you show up again, that gives them that second option to click that could be really great for your store. Okay, so to close this out, I would look at Etsy ads as an opportunity to invest in traffic to your store. If you aren't seeing sales coming from your traffic, I wouldn't blame Etsy, especially if you're going through and making those keyword changes and changing your tags so that you're being found in the right keywords. I would look internally at yourself and say, what is it that I'm doing? Is my pricing off? Are my pictures not as good? Am I losing customers because I'm confusing? My offer's not quite right. And really make the edits there. So these ads can help you see, is your store set up right? And are you set up for success? Or do you need to go back to the lab and fix those things? Hopefully, this has been a great video for you to learn more about how to run successful ads. I actually am the host of a podcast. If you want to listen to some episodes that can be really helpful for you, just go to Grow My Etsy Shop Podcast, search that in whatever you listen to for your podcast, and I'll see you around.